Hey everybody, inside this box are 100 gladiola corms, and corm is the proper name of a gladiola bulb. And I'd gotten these through Nicole from Flower Hill Farms. She partnered up with C&J Farms and offered up this different mix of gladiolas. I just got the assortment, so I don't know what I'm gonna get. I did the same thing last fall with her and the daffodil mix from C&J Farms, and it was absolutely spectacular. The flowers are just finishing up now, and there were so many varieties of daffodils that I had never seen before. Lots of doubles and unique colors, and just the shape of the flowers were very different than I'd ever seen in a daffodil before. And I know that there's a couple of unusual varieties of gladiolas in here too, so I'm really looking forward to it. It was definitely worth getting, and I'm really happy I got the assortment because, hey, I didn't know what I was going to get. I was very, very pleased with them, and the flowers were really huge. Now, one of the big differences between daffodils and gladiolas is that the daffodils, they're hardy in our area. So I planted them, and where I got 1, 2, or 3 flowers this year, I'm going to see more next year because daffodils will make it through the winter, and they tend to naturalize, which means they kind of spread in a little bit of a clump, and that clump over every couple of years you can break it apart and spread them around or share them with people. Gladiolas are not like that at all. In fact, gladiolas, I think, are hardy to like zone 7. So they're basically on the opposite end of the spectrum of what we have here. So if you want to have these same gladiolas next year, you'll have to dig them up in the fall and store them over the winter and then replant them in the spring. So we'll see how ambitious I am this fall. But for now, I really want to get these in the ground because they're absolutely, just a beautiful plant. Because I remember as a kid, my mom used to plant them along the edge of the garden, and the garden was along our driveway. My parents have a history of having long driveways. So every day in the fall on the way to school, we would be, walking to the bus, and I remember always watching the gladiolas. So we'd be watching them kind of get taller and taller, and then as they opened, we'd be watching as each flower opened. And that's the kind of interesting thing about gladiolas, is that because they have so many flowers on a single stalk, the bloom lasts a really long time. And I think the word gladiola comes from the word sword or something like that, and they do kind of have that sword effect. So let's look inside here. So this is how they came. They arrived about, I think it was almost 2 months ago. So all I did was I put them in a basically cool, dark, dry spot, and let's see how they did. I checked them about 2 weeks ago, and I think Stacy was checking them while I was on the road, and she said that she didn't notice any problems. So let's get these open. So it just kind of came in this box, and one thing about the gladiolas, or the corms, apparently you plant them with the pointy side up. I'm going to double check that. I think that's right though. And you plant them 4 to 6 inches deep and 4 to 6 inches apart. So I'm probably going to go more on the 4-inch side just because we have a short season here, and it takes usually, I think it's 90 to 100 days for a gladiola to flower. And with our short season, we could be cutting it close. If I wait too late to plant them, they won't be ready, or they'll just start to flower just at the time when we're getting a first frost. So I don't want that. So I want to get those in the ground. I've read somewhere that you can put them in the ground like 2 weeks before your last frost date. We're right around our last frost date here. We're at the very end of May. So I'll just pour them in here. Oops. So this is the 100 of them, and you can see there's like different. They all look a little bit different. They seem in pretty good shape. I don't notice any they're not mushy at all. So they've held up really well in storage and with transport. And so it looks like they are starting to sprout a little bit. That's the only one though. Oh no, there's a couple other ones. So hey, I want to get these in the ground. I don't have a spot in mind for these. So I think I'm going to just toss them in kind of a neglected row that we have. But in order to do that, I don't know that the soil's anything great out there. So what I'm going to do is probably I'll scrape off the grass that's been growing in that row. Then I'm going to work up that soil a little bit. There are some Asiatic lilies planted out there which do really well. They get really tall and flower great, and they get complete neglect as well. So I'm going to plant those with those. So I'm going to dig up the soil, work in probably some dairy-dew tree and shrub, just because I don't know how much fertilizer these need, and I could use like the soil amender, but that can be kind of powerful stuff, and I don't know how bulbs, if they like to be that close to that kind of fertilizer. So the tree and shrub is kind of a diluted version of compost that I can put out there, and I feel pretty safe about that. Hopefully they thrive on neglect, because I don't know how much time I'm going to get out there. From what I read, the important thing is making sure that they don't dry out when you first plant them. And once they kind of get established, they should be kind of no nonsense. So I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to get that soil kind of fixed up. I don't know that I'm going to plant all 100 of them. Whatever I don't plant, I'm just going to give to friends and family and kind of go from there. So looks like I got a good mix here though. So you can kind of watch me as I'm planting them. I don't really know what I'm doing because I haven't planted the gladiolas, but they seem pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to just work up that soil, put them 4 inches underneath the ground, kind of water them in, and then probably in a couple days I'll make sure they get some more water. And that's what I'm going to do. And hey, I'll report back and later on when they start coming up, and hopefully in the fall when they start flowering. So let's go. So I got about 70 of the corms planted. The other 30 have already found good homes, so they'll be growing in somebody else's yard. I have to say that my haphazard planting technique, I literally just threw them in different ways each time, different amounts of compost. I had no method to my madness. Will definitely be a testament as to whether or not these gladiolas are really resilient to weird planting techniques. I'm putting them to the test, so we'll find out. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hey, I hope you have some gladiolas going in the ground. And in case you're wondering about that bright lime tree behind me, that is a Princeton gold maple. It has one of the most intensely bright colored leaves. You'll see it's especially bright in the springtime, but it holds that color really through summer. In the fall, it doesn't get the bright fall colors that you see from the other maples, but since it's right there and looking so good, I figured I better tell you about that one too. So talk to you guys all very, very soon.